The training has to change in the police force. The unions have to be taken down in the police force. My dad was a cop. I believe in good cops. We're not trying to defund the police and take all their money away. We're trying to get them to protect us, just like they protect everybody else. I didn't want to talk about it before the game because it's so hard, like to just keep watching it. That video, if you watch that video, you don't need to be black to be outraged. You need to be American and outraged. And how dare the Republicans talk about fear? We're the ones that need to be scared. We're the ones having to talk to every black child. What white father has to give his son a talk about being careful if you get pulled over? It's just ridiculous. And it just keeps going. There's no charges. Breonna Taylor, no charges, nothing. All we're asking is you live up to the Constitution. That's all we're asking for everybody, for everyone. Thank you.
From legendary Uncle Studios in beautiful Southern California, welcome to another edition of Work Comp Matters, the central location for you employees, you employers, and of course, we haven't forgotten about you damn independent contractors. And now, here's this week's edition of Work Comp Matters.
August 27th, we're a couple of minutes after 12 noon. Technical difficulties. Sorry about that, folks. I wanted to get you a snippet of Doc Rivers, the coach of the Clippers, talking about the Jacob Blake incident. And Scott, I presume that none of our mics were on during the 90 seconds. Is that correct, Scott? I just want to wait and get a confirmation from you, Scott. Just come on in and say that our mics. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everybody. You're dialed into a very special edition of Work Comp Matters. We are brought to you by workcompcentral.com. If you want the number one location for workers' compensation in both California and around the United States, check out workcompcentral.com. They've got a free 7-day offer, and if you want to pick up their services, I have them. You should too. It's only $1 a day. Work Comp Matters is also brought to you by A1 Law, the number one computer management system. 818-357-4120 for your no strings attached money back guarantee, $1 a day. A1 Law. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve Appell, and I am, of course, joined by the madman across the water, John Scalia, my chief of staff, Mike Zyma. And as you can tell, of course, we're dedicating today's show to Jacob Blake. Unless you've been asleep forever, a couple of days ago, Jacob Blake was shot in the back 4 times by a Kenosha.
7.
What?
7 times.
Nah, 7 shots were fired and 4 hit him. But yes, I know everybody in the news is saying that he got shot 7 times. The officer fired 7 times. He got hit. Yeah, he got hit 4 times. He's currently paralyzed. He is alive. And once again, another classic example of why I have constantly advocated that all police and law enforcement officers should be wearing body cameras. And there's a lot that we don't know, but there is a lot that we do know. And that is that Mr. Jacob Blake was driving his car with his children and then stopped on a public street to get out to communicate with apparently 10 women that were on the sidewalk. I don't know what they were talking about, and I don't know why he was there to communicate. There, of course, has been speculation that he wanted to, I'll paraphrase, break up a ruckus. I don't know. There is speculation where he knew the women or didn't know the women. I know me, if I was driving with my children in a car and I saw 10 women with a ruckus that I didn't know, I wouldn't stop. I'd drive on by. But again, that's just me. So he stopped. The women left the children in the car. And then the police arrived. Now, there is speculation. We don't know why the police were called there. There are earlier reports that someone who knew Jacob Blake or lived with Jacob Blake or was close with Jacob Blake called the police and essentially said he shouldn't be there, but he's going there anyways. Or after he arrived, someone at the group said, he's here and he shouldn't be here. So the police show up. The police attempt to detain him. They then stun him. This is on the sidewalk, passenger side of the car. And then after stunning him, and this is what's in the video, he walks from the passenger side of the car to the front of the car in the street and then to the driver's side and he successfully opens the driver's door and then bends into the car. Now, while he was walking from the front of the car to the driver's side, both police were following him within feet. I mean, like 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet. Clearly one officer, the officer that shot him 4 times, had his gun drawn. I don't know if the other officer had his gun drawn. I'd only seen the video like 5 times. But as Jacob Blake opened the door, the driver's door, and bent into the driver's seat, the officer who had been with the Kenosha, Wisconsin Police Department fired his gun 7 times at point blank range. And I'm saying within 12 to 24 inches. Some of those shots may have been less than 6 inches away into his back. Let me say this. John and I, many times on the show, have had discussions about the United States Constitution versus ethical, religious, other types of way of attitudes, values, and beliefs. I firmly believe in our United States Constitution that you are innocent until proven guilty, and that all of the laws of the great country that we all live in should apply. However, in my mind, this police officer is guilty until proven innocent. And the first thing that comes to me when we talk about police brutality, and after 7 years and what I've seen on the film, I've watched it 6 times, is where was the training? How could something like this get so far out of control that it ended up like this? I can't believe that any of our good law enforcement officers, the top 95% who have been properly trained and follow the training, can subscribe to any of this happening. 7 shots and 4 of them hit in the back at point blank range. I am almost speechless. Now, I want to get Mike and John's opinions. We started a few minutes late. We got 5 minutes for their opinions. We're going to take a little bit of news break. And then I want to talk a little bit about the NBA and Major League Baseball and potentially the NFL and how they are reacting to the shooting of Jacob Blake. Mike, go ahead.
There's a lot of things I don't understand. One of the things I don't understand is why some white folks don't get that black folks want the cops to stop shooting them in the back. There seems to be a deflection sometimes. The response is, well, blue lives matter. Well, of course blue lives matter. Of course all lives matter. But for the moment, the focus is on white cops shooting young black men in the back. What's going to be next? Young black men shooting cops? We saw some of this a few years ago. So what are we headed toward? A race war? Helter-skelter? Charles Manson was right? Is the sports world helping? Is stopping play irrelevant? Well, what else to do? I obviously don't have any answers, but I'm just dumbfounded why a lot of white folks, some who I know, don't get that black folks want the cops to stop shooting them in the back. John?
You know, I talk about this in my second book, The Philosophy of Common Sense, because I deal with law and I deal with what makes a good law. And I also point out that Americans don't understand the relationship between the district attorney and the cops, which is why cops never get prosecuted. Americans don't know how it works. And so they assume that the DA is some sort of independent legal force that evaluates the evidence. That's not true. But let me begin by a very simple premise. An unarmed person should never be shot, period. Halt, stop. I don't give a you-know-what the unarmed person is doing. If they're unarmed, there is no excuse for shooting them. And of course I have a rather irreverent sense of humor. And I would say, if you want to talk about training a cop, a guy who fires 7 bullets at point blank range and misses with 3 of them couldn't have been trained for anything. But, and the other thing is we don't know what kind of training they got. We get in LA, they get a lot of training. Okay. We know that. I mean, I represented LAPD and they do get a lot of training. So, but we don't know what they get for training in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Okay, it may be a 2-week write-in course or something. I mean, we don't know what it is. Obviously, it ain't very good. That's for sure. And the other thing is, as I was talking with Mike before the show, I mean, all you have to do is Google how many people get killed by cops in America. And if you don't think there's a problem, well, then I'm sorry, I can't help you because there's no reason. Ask yourself how many unarmed people have killed cops. I mean, really, just reverse it. And ask yourself how many unarmed people pose a life and death danger to cops. And yet, the answer is obvious. And yet, when you reverse it, oh my, the cops come up with all kinds of justifications about why they're shooting the guy. And there aren't any, point blank. And the NBA and the black players realize these are black athletes who are playing for the amusement of a white audience. So the only thing they can do to take it away is take away the game.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the second half of the show. John, any thing left except for the sports?
No.
All right. And John, you hit the nail on the head once again. How many armed people have killed cops? Just reverse it. My name is Steve Appell. You're dialed into Work Comp Matters. We are brought to you by the workcompcentral.com. If you want the #1 location for workers' compensation in both California and around the United States, check out the workcompcentral.com. They've got a free 7-day offer. And if you want to pick up their services, I have them. You should too. It's only $1 a day. Work Comp Matters is also brought to you by A1 Law, #1 computer management system used by more workers' compensation attorneys than any other computer management system on the damn planet. We're going to be back in the second half of the show to talk about how sports is reacting to the Jacob Blake shooting. But right now, Mike and John with the Work Comp Matters Zoom news. Take it away, guys.
John, you lead off.
Okay, California officials oppose CDC over looser coronavirus testing and travel protocols. New guidance on coronavirus testing and travel issued by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention drew strong pushback from California officials Wednesday. The CDC is no longer recommending a 14-day quarantine for travelers after the government issued a mandatory quarantine. So, Governor Gavin Newsom, and they also said that they're using less testing. I would point out that the meeting at which the CDC voted on that, Dr. Anthony Fauci was getting surgery, and he was not present to vote. What does that tell you? Mike?
New cases of COVID-19 and hospitalizations from the virus in California continued to nosedive Wednesday, and the latest data released by state and local health departments and even the hardest hit regions appeared to be on the mend. Both numbers reached lows not seen since the final week of June, a 7-day average of 5,887 new cases per day, the lowest since June 30th, with 4,424 patients currently hospitalized, the fewest since June 25th, according to data compiled by news organizations. And folks, I just don't believe those numbers. Sorry, John.
Lawmakers' positive virus test delays California Senate work. The California Senate abruptly canceled its session Wednesday after a lawmaker tested positive for the coronavirus, putting the legislature's work in jeopardy as they rushed to pass legislation ahead of a Monday deadline. Senator Brian Jones, a Republican from Santee, confirmed in a Facebook post that he had tested positive for the virus. Jones wore a mask on the Senate floor Monday, as is required of everyone in the building. He said that he is getting tested again to ensure his results are accurate, but in the meantime, he will follow state and federal protocols. I Googled the guy. He is a fascist, and I suspect he's never worn a mask unless he's been forced to. Mike.
A coronavirus outbreak at the Mesa Verde Ice Processing Center in Bakersfield has prompted local advocates to call on Kern County Public Health Services to assert greater control over the facility. Over half of the immigrant detainees held at Mesa Verde have contracted COVID-19, according to documents released as part of a class action lawsuit. ICE's website states that the facility currently holds 52 COVID-positive folks, with 6 others that have since tested negative or been released. John.
LA County reports cases of newborns with COVID-19 for first time. LA County officials on Wednesday reported the first cases of COVID-19 among newborns. Public Health Director Barbara Farrar, by the way, she's not a medical doctor, so you have company there, Mike, reported that 1,200 pregnant women and girls between the ages of 14 and 52 have tested positive for the virus, and 2 have died of complications. Of the 193 babies who were tested at birth, 8 were positive. Mike.
All right. Top leaders of the University of California system warned Wednesday that students could face various disciplines if they violate health regulations and social distancing rules with the type of crowded parties that have spread COVID-19 infections at university campuses across the state and the country. UC President Michael Drake, who became head of the 10-campus system this month, and John A. Fadez, chairman of the UC Board of Regents, both declined to specify the type of sanctions for gatherings that exceed health limits or for refusing to wear masks in public. They said those decisions would be made campus by campus and would be judged on a case-by-case basis, depending on the situation. John.
And I thank you very much for that, Mike and John, the Work Comp Matters Zoom news. Scott, just as a note, we're going to go 10 minutes, so we're going to end at about 12:35. This show, of course, is dedicated to the Jacob Blake shooting. In the first half, Mike, John, and myself talked about our thoughts, what we knew, what we didn't know. Now I want to talk about how this is affecting sports. The National Basketball Association canceled all of their 3 playoff games yesterday. all 3 playoff games are canceled tonight. From the NBA players reported today that they want to continue the season. And you might say, well, wait a minute, we didn't know it was canceled. Well, actually, apparently, the players on the Lakers and the players on the Clippers took a vote. That's 24 people. I think this is just the players. They apparently all voted, at least in the initial vote, to cancel the season. But talks went on into early this morning, and in a statement issued today by the league, the 3 playoff games scheduled for today will hopefully be played in the coming days. NBA playoff games for today will not be played as scheduled. We are hopeful to resume games either Friday or Saturday. Mike Bass, executive vice president of the NBA, said in a statement, and there's a video conference scheduled for today. Now, let's go back about 4 years? Colin Kaepernick kneeling on the field. Then we had more football players kneeling. And then last season, baseball, basketball, it was going on and off. There was huge controversy about kneeling. Okay? Doesn't seem so bad now, does it? Now you've got the 3 words Black Lives Matters taking up 25% of the court, okay? You've got the players deciding to cancel games, okay? Now, let's talk about money, power, and fame for a moment. The NFL, National Football League, generates over $8 billion. That's B with a B. The NFL generates over $8 billion a year. Major League Baseball generates over $10.7 billion a year. Now, the NFL is a coaches league. I mean, unless you're Tom Brady, and even if you are Tom Brady, you cannot get a general consensus among all the football players in the NFL. And I mean, if you're Mike Trout, I mean, you can barely get all the Angels to agree on a political movement because Major League Baseball is a manager's league. I'm sorry. But if you're the NBA and you generate almost $9 billion a league with 12 players on a team, and you've got 30 teams in the NBA, the average team is worth $2 billion. The Lakers are worth $4 billion. Okay. The 30 teams together, that means the teams are worth $60 billion and they generate almost $9 billion a year. But the NBA is a players' league. Make no bones about it. It's the players that are controlling the NBA. And I think to myself, when the players attempted to get approval or authority or permission to kneel or give the peace sign or whatever, and there was huge pushback, now look at how much control the players have. Players are saying, hey, you don't want to make things happen, or you don't want to have a political view, we're not going to play. Make no bones about it. Baseball is a manager's league. Football is a coach's league, but the NBA is a players' league. Mike, you know a hell of a lot more about sports than I do. We've got 5 minutes left in the show. You're a baseball friggin' encyclopedia. Take a couple of minutes, and then I want to what are your opinions, and then what are John's opinions also on the political influence that the NBA and other sports franchises have on this issue?
Well, let me lay a foundation. When COVID hit, I felt guilty that I had placed so much importance on sports, especially baseball, when thousands and thousands of people were being killed. And then sports was making a comeback, and it was like, okay, well, let's get back to being Americans, and baseball, show us the way. Just like, Jackie broke the color barrier. Let's go and let's play. And now I'm feeling the same way because black folks are being shot in the back by cops over and over again. So is sports irrelevant? Well, I don't know. Maybe. So if the NBA players are going to say, screw it, if we don't see anything changing, we just ain't going to play, I just got to think more power to them. I don't know whether that action is going to be irrelevant or not. I feel very frustrated by everything, John.
Well, I think Steve's analysis of the various leagues is right on the money. And I think he's right that the NBA is the most player-controlled league around. Let's face facts. Money talks in America. And when you're talking, you listen to the numbers that Steve gave and the billions for each league. And if the players say, look, we want political action from our owners, or we're not going to play for you because we think you're racist. And I think they can force the owners. It's like a political action committee. That's what political action committees do. And so if the owners try to say, well, we're not political, the players say, don't give us that. Of course you're political. Look at the tax breaks that makes this possible for you. Look at all the arenas that are publicly financed. Don't give us that crap. We want change, and we know that together, we know that if you go with us, we can effectuate change.
Well, and I'd like the record to reflect the fact that Jeannie Buss, the controlling partner for the LA Lakers, as I understand it, has completely and fully backed the players here.
Good.
Yes, actually she has. And I had her statement up. And of course, because of my own technical difficulties, just give me 1 second here. Yep, here we go. I've got the Jeannie Buss statement. And I was, quote, I was excited to see us play and hopefully close out our series tonight. This was quoted yesterday. But I stand behind our players today and always. After more than 400 years of cruelty, racism, and injustice, we all need to work together to say enough is enough, close quote, Jeannie Buss. And I'm going to quote Jeannie Buss, enough is enough.
Exactly. I don't know how much pull she has with her other owners, though.
Well, yeah, because they're all males, aren't they?
Yes, I believe all of them are.
Thank you very much. And I very much appreciate all of you taking your valuable time to listen to this edition of Work Comp Matters for legendary Uncle Studio. Scott Walton, thank you very much. For Mike and John, thank you very much. For the workcompcentral.com and A1 Law, my name is Steve Appell. And we'll see you again tomorrow at noon for another edition of Work Comp Matters.